What's up, guys? Welcome to the DoItMovement podcast. This is your host, Martine Jackson, and I've built my 6-figure, soon to be 7-figure, massive real estate business through commercial investing, rental investing, and wholesaling in Virginia. After college, I worked a series of jobs that I absolutely hated and decided to take life into my own hands. What my journey has shown me is one very important thing. Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. Each week, I bring you a powerful guest or tip to unravel the real estate game, and my challenge to you is that you take some of that knowledge and do something with it. The Do It Movement is here to help you create the life you desire through real estate. Now let's get to it. Hello, today, Do It Movement listeners. This is your host, Martine Jackson. We have Mr. Fuquan Bilal with us today. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on the platform. I really appreciate
it. And I don't know what time it is that people are listening to this, but this is for you because all your videos, well, not all of them, most of them, when I watch them, you're saying, good morning, good morning, good morning. So for the people that are listening, good morning, good morning, good morning.
Yeah. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Yeah, I'm an early riser. I get up at 3:30 every day. You know, some people actually are up during that time. You know, I go on my Instagram or my Facebook and try to say good morning to the world and, you know, get that positive energy out. So, yeah, that's one of my sayings. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
I love it. The energy is insane.
Yeah, passion.
But for the people that don't know who you are, could you just, give us a brief overview of what do you do in real estate investing? Why did you get into real estate investing? And let's just talk about that.
Oh, sure. Fuquan Bilal, CEO of NNG Capital Fund, PFREI, passion for real estate investments. I'm also a superhero to my 2 boys. So, that's first and foremost, that's really my foundation is family. And one of the reasons I got involved in real estate, I've always been in sales all my life, from what I can remember from when I was 10 years old, with my mom, helping out, when she used to go to Chinatown and buy some wholesale and we would sell at retail. I mean, my brother would compete. So I always had sales in me. I started doing real estate in 90. I've been in real estate for about 20 years. And I had a corporate job like everyone else. And I started to shadow my cousin who actually got involved in real estate 6 to 8 months before I did. And, he made, $40,000 on a transaction, somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000 on a transaction. And that was like half my salary. I mean, I had a good salary at the time. And he made that within 4 months. And I was just like, wow. And me and my cousin always been competitive also. We're the same age, and I just took the leap of faith and started shadowing him around. And lo and behold, a few months later, I was able to land one of those big checks. And I put my 2-week notice in and never looked back since then. But fast money go fast. I had to learn the hard way because I was very young when I got involved. And 6 months later, I remember driving through the Garden State Parkway toll booth, and didn't even have money to pay for a 35-cent toll.
Oh, man.
Straight, looking for change and everything else. So from that point on, I kind of understood really, the value of when you make money, how to continue to invest it and make sure that you don't live check to check. And that was one of the biggest mistakes that I made, just getting in and flipping properties and not having streams of income from rentals. And when the market crashed, I got really, really hurt. So I am market cycle tested. I lost a lot in 2007, 2008, 2009 term. And I didn't lose. Actually, I learned a lot, I want to say.
Right.
Process what the importance of cash flow is in relationships. Now, I was able to keep all of my relationships because I paid off all my investors. I did not file bankruptcy. I sold everything. And I was the one that took the hit on the chin and had to start all over again. And that made me stronger, a better person I am today. I mean, that made me a better person today than I was before. And then I started learning other types of real estate investments, such as mortgage notes. I know you and I talked about that. And, we met some time ago at Jim Ingersoll event, and I had the opportunity to share a little bit about note investing with the group that was there. But today it's really the mindset of diversified hybrid real estate investing. And that's something actually trademark, because I believe if you have the wherewithal and the processes to be able to do wholesaling, to be able to buy a property and rent it and derive some income from that, to be able to fix and flip, to be able to do notes. Of course you have to have experience and systems and the team to do this, but if you can't do that, why not do it all? A lot of people say just laser focus. If you're just getting started, you definitely want to laser focus and build mastery in one thing. But I've been doing this 20 years and they kind of go with each other.
Right.
You can get a property that comes to you and it's not in your wheelhouse, but you can actually wholesale it out and get some income from that. You can do that. If it's in your wheelhouse and it's not a flip because the numbers are not there, you can take it as a rental because maybe it has better cash flow than higher profits. Maybe it's a subject to, or just different types of strategies that you can use in this realm.
Right. So since you've been in this game it's been over 20 years, right?
Yeah. 99 to 2019, about 20 years.
Yeah. So you've seen quite a few market cycles.
Yeah. I've seen when it was an FHA market, when I first got involved in 99, everything was, FHA. And then somewhere around 2001, it just shifted to a conventional market. That's when it came out with the Nina loans and no doc loans. And it stayed that way for about 5 to 6 years until the crash happened. So, right now, everyone is saying, we don't know where the market is going. There's another crash. And this is why diversified hybrid real estate investing is important and not just focus on wholesaling. You need some type of cash flow. So if the market do take a dip and there's not a lot of product on the market to be able to wholesale out, now you have cash flow coming in from notes or from rentals and things of that nature. So it's very important.
Right. And I like that. I know you diversify and you do a lot of investing, but I like that today we're going to talk about note investing. And I really like it because a lot of the times when we're talking about cash flow, we're talking about, rentals or seller finance deals, and all of that stuff is good too. But this is a different approach that, up to about a year ago, I didn't know anything about notes. I hadn't even created a note, and I didn't even know I created one. But so let's talk more about note investing. How did you get into note investing, and I guess where would you start if you were interested in doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So to understand the note business, there's two different sides, right? You have the seller financing, where you own a property and maybe you'll create a sandwich or some type of deal with as an existing mortgage and you sell it to someone, you do a wraparound, seller finance type of deal. This part of the note business that I play in is institutional notes that were created by the institutional banks, Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Bank. The big banks, they basically lent money out. And when the people could not pay, when the market hit, or even still today, there's always going to be a default rate. They have to follow Basel. Those are banking rules, 1, 2, and 3. These are rules that the banks follow. And basically, the main one is that whatever delinquent assets the bank have on their books, they have to hold 10 times reserves. So if they have $1 million in bad debt, they have to hold $10 million in liquidity. And business to keep money on reserves. They want to lend that money out, arbitrage, and make money off of it. So they get rid of these delinquent assets and they sell them in pools, which is an Excel spreadsheet of, could be, 400 loans. Smaller banks may have 100 loans to sell. Bigger banks may have 10,000 loans to sell. It can vary. And they get rid of these delinquent assets. And if you're set up properly, the right license and collection license and things in place, you can be awarded these loans through a bid process. And then you take these assets and you begin to work them. What I like about it is that it's an opportunity to really help a homeowner stay in the house. And it's really passive and active because you do it from your laptop cell phone versus chasing contractors running around a Home Depot and all that just income from. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's time consuming. It's very active. And if you're young, and I still like to do that. I I still be at Home Depot. Fun, and I have my own personal portfolio. I have 2 boys in training, so I'm teaching that part. But the note business pretty much is laptop, cell phone, where you get the opportunity to solution with the person that's in that house that may have went through one of the many reasons that they default. It could be divorce, sickness, job loss, any one of those reasons. Not everyone is a deadbeat. Some people go through real life situations and they want to pay their bills, but the bank that had it at that time didn't want to hear it. Maybe they wanted to foreclose and push them out, or they decided to sell off the asset to someone else. Now, someone like you and I may get that asset and may be able to create a solution or via laptop, cell phone. And basically, once that solution is created, they're going to start to pay you now. You become the bank. So I'll give you an example. The space that I play in predominantly is second mortgages. Now, some people, second mortgage risk. What is that about? Like, first and second mortgages are exactly the same. It's just one is recorded before the other. What I mean by that, you have the same rights as the lien holder. Just one goes before the other. So we like to buy second mortgages with a loan balance, that unpaid principal balance, meaning this is the amount of debt that the borrower owes on their principal balance. Maybe it's between $50,000 and $80,000 is the balance where they went into default and they stopped paying at that amount. Maybe property is worth $350,000, and maybe there's a first for $250,000. So $30,000 in equity above the first mortgage. They owe $80,000. They're not paying the second, but they're paying the first. So we will go in and we will buy that asset maybe for $35,000. Maybe they had an $800 a month payment. Now we can share our discount with the borrower. Now I'm not going to reduce the principal, but I can reduce the payment to maybe $600 a month. Maybe that's more affordable than the $800 was. So now if I invested $35,000 and let's say it costs me another $5,000 in legal fees just to put the borrower on notice and start the foreclosure or accelerate a legal action to bring them to the table, now I'm able to work something out with them where I can get them to put down some money to restart the payment plan and lower their payment. So I may have invested into this asset that's, the unpaid balance is $80,000. There's $100,000 equity above the first, so I'm fully covered. Maybe I was able to get them to put down $5,000 and start to pay me $600 a month. And that's a great return. Too many people who have $40,000 in the bank and they're generating $600 a month interest on that money in their bank.
Right.
Another way to look at it, and it's the same concept where if you say, well, wait a minute, Fuquan, I can take that same $40,000 and go and get a rental, and that could be my down payment and maybe a little bit of renovation money, and I can make that same $600 a month net profit on a real property. But the difference is when the roof leaks, when the pipes bust, when the boiler go, when you have to shovel the snow, the homeowner is doing that, right?
Right.
Property, you have to do that, or your property management company have to do that. And hopefully the property management company is not, stealing from you or upcharging for stuff that they didn't do. So it's a difference. One is a little bit more laptop, cell phone, and one is the other is active, but you can pretty much generate the same returns, but you can scale because now I can manage 50 notes easily. Right. I can manage 50 properties.
Right.
I can kind of get the same type of income and have less running around. And the good part is now once that person paid for a year, I can now sell that $80,000 worth of debt for maybe $65,000 or $70,000. If someone who may invest $70,000, still $600 a month is still good on a $70,000 investment. So now I get to sell an asset almost double my money. I collected, $7,000 of payment. Now I can go ahead and sell an asset for almost double the amount. So that's the whole concept of it. There are some risks that's involved. I do want to put that out there. It's just not that simple. It's a lot of work that goes into building the processes and dealing with. You have to have a network of attorneys, and you can lose your money. It can go around, even though you're fully covered in equity. In the example I just gave you, they can have a hardship and stop paying their first. And then once the first falls behind, the first can foreclose and wipe you out when they foreclose on a homeowner because you're in second position. But because you own the second mortgage, you have equitable interest in the property, so you can reinstate the first. You can foreclose from second position, subject to the first, and take over the property in a subject to situation. Evict that person that wasn't paying you out, and now you can rent or you can sell the property, put it on the market, and take control of it. So I look at second mortgage as an option on the property.
Mm-hmm.
Out, maybe $30,000 to $40,000. I have an option on the property for $350,000. So that's the whole concept. And I give you an expensive asset. Now you have something that is less than that. Let's say the same scenario where the value is $350, the first mortgage is $350, and the second is $80. There's no equity. Mm-hmm. I may pay $15,000 for that $80,000 worth of debt. And I may create the same scenario where I get the borrower to put down some money and get $600 a month. But the only difference is now if I foreclose, I can't liquidate it because there's no equity to pay me because the first balance is the same amount as the value. Right. But maybe if I spent $15,000 for that asset and another $5,000 to start foreclosure, and I generate $600 a month, now I'm into it for $20,000, generate $600 a month, and I can go and sell an asset for $40,000 or $50,000.
Right.
So it's just a whole concept.
So if you're in second position and you're let's look at the worst case scenario, they're not paying. You're foreclosing, and you said you can foreclose subject to that first.
The first.
So that means you're making the first payments?
You don't have to because you didn't sign the note, so you're not liable for it, but you can. And let me give you an example of that. There in New York, it takes about 4 years to foreclose.
Great.
So I know some note investors, that's times the judicial state. The people in New York are very savvy. They, know how to prolong the foreclosure. But think about the rents in New York. So you have a brownstone 2-family house where, let's say you bought a second mortgage that was $80,000 balance. And a lot of investors in New York do this play. They buy the second mortgage. They may spend $40,000 for that second mortgage. But now there's a first mortgage for maybe, $1 million. Mm-hmm. They foreclose subject to the first mortgage, evict the homeowner, rent it out, and don't pay the first. They may be getting $9,000 a month in income or $7,000 a month income from that 2-family, and do that for 3-4 years until the foreclosure comes. So if they invested $40,000, they collected $9,000 a month. It's a no-brainer. In 6 months, they got their money back plus profit. If they go 2 years and then let the first foreclose, that's a different option. If it's negative equity, they can't sell it. Right. The other situation, if there's no equity, if you do pay the first, which we do, in our fund, we actually buy a diversity of different types of assets. We buy a pool, right? We don't cherry pick. We buy the good, bad, and the ugly. If we find something in that situation that has no equity, we look at what the rents are doing, right? Because it may be a situation where there's no equity above the first, the second is underwater, but that first mortgage payment may be $900 with taxes and everything included. You may be able to rent that property for $1,500, $1,600. So there's a small arbitrage there. If you do foreclose and take it subject to, you can rent it out and collect $400 or $500 a month in rents. And that person, that monthly payment you're making on the first, it may be a principal payment because the homeowner's been in the house for 10 years. They're over the interest hurdle, and now you're paying down the principal. As values increase and you're paying down the principal in time, there will be some equity there if the market, stays steady or increase. So it's just different strategies that you can use. But these are advanced strategies. I would definitely tell someone who's looking to get into the note business to buy something that has cash flow already and performing first, so you can understand how that works. You have a vendor, which is a loan servicer that collects the payment. You never deal with the borrower. You never speak with them. The loan servicer do all that, and they handle all that for you for like $15, $20 a month. They're your customer service. Dealing with the homeowner. You don't speak to them or communicate with them. The loan servicer or asset manager would do all of that for you. So it's a great investment strategy. I never knew about it. It's the difference between an investor mindset or banker mindset. Completely different. Us as real estate investors, we want to, go out, search for properties, wholesale them out, fix them, and you do what we need to do with them. But a banker thinks different. They think yield. They think arbitrage. They think cash flow. You know, investors have some of that, but investors think, okay, I don't want to deal with the property. I want the homeowner to be the property manager, and I just want to get the payment. I want to be the true bank. Right. So whatever solution I have to create, even in some scenarios where we may foreclose and take the property, let's say it's in Mississippi, I'm not going to send a construction crew down to Mississippi and fix up the property and rent it out. I'm going to find a local boots on the ground investor that I can sell or finance the property to and create a note again. Right. I foreclosed it. It's down in Mississippi. I'm going to go on LinkedIn, or my asset manager go on LinkedIn or Bigger Pockets and find somebody who's in that area who's doing a thing, or a wholesaler who can put it out in the market and tell them, hey, we'll finance this deal. You know, if it's a $60,000 property, we'll take $15,000 down and we'll structure interest-only payments for the rest for a term. They'll go in and rehab it, sell it, and pay us off. So we've created several situations like that as well. You can actually turn it back into a note, you know, once you foreclose on it, if you don't have local boots on the ground. That's what I love about it.
Right. You know? So I guess my question is, let's say you foreclosed on it and you did turn it back into a note, but you're in second, you would have to pay off the first in order to create another note, or no? You just do it subject to.
Subject to. It's the same as subject to, wrap, everything else. It's the same concept, but the only difference between a note is that you're first in line, right? Because remember, before the REO, before it turned into an REO, it was once a bank. It was the bank owned the paper. It went into default. They foreclosed on it and then sold it as an REO. So if you meet with that bank before they foreclose on it, and you buy the paper from them, and you get those assignment of mortgage, the rights of the mortgage and loan assigned to you. Now you take the position of the bank. So you're ahead of everybody else, you know, trying to wait for REOs and everything to come to the market. So this is the top of the totem pole, really.
You're opening my eyes here.
It's tough. I mean, but it's a lot of work really sourcing banks. I mean, I found that it's an uphill battle going into Chase Bank, or I'm not familiar with the banks down in VA, but if you guys have whatever the big banks are, it's tough going in and say, hey, I want to buy your delinquent paper. They're like, we don't handle that here. What are you talking about? So smaller community banks, they're easier. Banks where credit unions, they're easier because they're giving loans, small loans to people, less than $50,000. Maybe somebody took a second mortgage or home equity line of credit from their credit union. And that loan went in the default. So it's easier going to a credit union where they manage it right there in the house. They may have the physical folders literally in the safe at the credit union. So you go there and you can kind of find assets there, smaller community banks. The bigger banks are tougher to get assets from. You usually have to have millions of dollars to be able to do deals with them. With the smaller banks, you can actually make a deal happen. They may have one asset to sell. You never know. They might have a mixed-use property they financed that went into default, and they have the note on that, but they don't want to handle the REO part. You may be able to strike a deal with them to buy it directly from them. So,
So, in terms of scaling, if you wanted to do a lot of these deals, when it comes to, I guess, private money or getting the money to buy the notes, is it similar to like getting a note for a house where you'd get the money from someone and then maybe you'd wrap it or something? How does that look?
Yeah, so private investors are really big in this space. You would just pretty much create a situation if you're buying something performing, right? So how I look at it is an arbitrage situation. If I have someone who's cool with 8% or 7% or whatever your cost of capital is, and I find a performing note that's generating a 12% return, now it's an arbitrage situation where I can say, hey, Joe, I have a great deal. Here's a performing note. It's been paying on time for 3 years. I want to borrow $30,000 to buy this note, but the note is paying X amount, so I have enough to pay you your 8% and 9%, and there's still money left over for me. So you can create a situation like that where you can find a performing asset, find an investor, put those two together, and then you can create a situation where you're making a couple of $100 a month just off of putting that situation together. And maybe you can do 5 or 10 of those. You know, maybe it's the average spread you're making is 200, 250. Now you got 2,500 a month coming in just based off of that. But you definitely want to get educated before you even really go buy anything. There's so much more information online about note investing than when I got started. There's so many great events. There's one coming up in November, 1st and 2nd, noteexpo.com. So if you guys see, if you want to go to that website, check that out, noteexpo.com. There's about 500 to 600 people there, and I would say around 400 people are active investors. Okay. Meaning people who are actually in the business doing things, and you can learn a lot from them. There's a lot of vendors there, and there's a lot of different note events. You have paper source seminars, that's usually in Vegas in April. Note Expo is usually in November, and there's a couple other events that happen throughout the year. But those are the biggest where there are active investors where you can find a lot of resources. And I would say definitely go to one of those events first and connect with some of the people there just to kind of get an idea of this is the business you want to be in. You know, of course, YouTube, you can go to a lot of stuff. I have a lot of stuff on YouTube from when I first started in no business. I got started. For me, it was, late 2011 when I got started. So, I've been around for a while in no space, and I still feel like there's so much to learn. I feel like I'm really just getting started. And I've even seen a market shift in the note business because when I got started, pricing was really, really cheap. Pricing is still decent now, but it's the product and pricing that you're getting now is a little bit different than what it was when I first came out. Then plus you have regulation, which played a really big part in the note business. A lot of people are not in because of the regulation that's happening with certain licenses you need, and you have to have servicers and things like that. It was like the wild, wild west when I first got involved. And there's still some people flying below the radar, but for the most part, you can still make great returns, if you have the right capital. And I would say to get started, second mortgages, I started in second versus first because of the price point. Okay, so I can buy, when I first got started, put $100,000 in my own capital because some of the investors that I was doing real estate with, they was like, no way, we don't know what that is. We don't know how our money is secured. We know before we can see the property you're working on. You was giving us videos of renovations. We don't know anything about that. So I had faith in it. And it took me about 8 months. And it was pretty scary. I put my own capital out and I purchased some notes, and I went with seconds because I was able to diversify my money over a couple of notes versus buying a first. First mortgages are great also. It's just more expensive. It just depends on, how much capital you had to invest. If you have a couple $100,000 and you're going to be buying a low balance first in areas like Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Pennsylvania, where loan balances are $60,000, values of houses are $60,000. You could buy one of those notes for $25,000. But it could be a shack, or it could be something decent. It could be a 2-bedroom that rent for $600. You got it for $25,000. Maybe you got to put $10,000 into it. So Ohio is another good market for that. People are playing that space. But if you only have $100,000, like how many of those could you do? You want to do maybe 2. So for seconds, it was like, okay, I can do 4 or 5, spread my risk a little bit more. Plus the value of the houses that I'm buying assets on are worth $350,000. So the better quality house than a $60,000, no basement, 1 level, 2-bedroom house. You know what I mean? So that's a different mindset. So.
Okay. You mentioned the Note Expo in November. Where is that?
That's in Texas.
Okay.
It's in Dallas, Texas, on November 1st and 2nd. I actually be on a panel there. I had Bob Repass on my podcast yesterday doing an interview for him, helping to promote that event. It's a really great event. I speak there every year. Very diverse, and it's really an event that people should go to if they're looking to get into the note business.
Yeah, because someone told me something that kind of opened my eyes, because I was like, I'm not really interested in note investing, like at least not right now. And then they said, well, if you go to these note expos and you hear these people talking about notes, it'll help you structure your deals better.
Absolutely. It's for real estate investing in general. Like, you also can find note investors, because most note investors, they don't want to deal with REOs. They're note investors. So you may find somebody who have product in Virginia. in your marketplace. You may find somebody a product in Maryland or wherever you're investing in, and have a bunch of REOs. They don't know what to do with it. You may be able to host off. So it's for real estate investors really just to go and be open-minded. Concept that you can apply to your real estate businesses. You know, they talk about seller financing. You have loan servicers there, which are great sources for REOs. You know, because they deal with helping the no investor foreclose, and they probably have a lot of REOs in their book that don't get put with realtors. You know, they're just sitting on the book. So it's a great way to find private money also, and also to connect with like-minded individuals. It's a great event.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that. So what are some books that you read, or, I mean, I know you've been going to the events too and the experience, but what are some things that really helped you to learn more about notes, or just, you know, how your mindset is right now in general? Because that had to be a different mindset from employee to now you're entrepreneur, you're doing all these different investment strategies.
Yeah, for me, as far as mindset, it was cyber. I think it's cyber. Maxwell Maltz, and also of course, you know, the books, the Dale Carnegie books. I mean, and also Think and Grow Rich. A lot of that type of stuff really, for me, it helped me develop myself, because when the market crashed, I went through a lot. I lost a lot of money, and I had to start all over again. And really, for me, I had to find out where was the true wealth, and that's within. The real wealth is within. And when I recognized that and stopped chasing money and being a slave of money and a master to it, I learned how to use different framework in order for me to pursue my goal that I wanted to do. And when I first got into the note business, I saw really where I was going to be. I was like, wow, this is great. I can see it because I've been in real estate for so long. At that time, I was like, this is something that's like next level. Like, and no one was doing it, even creating a fund. You know, I remember having at the time, my son was 8. He's going to be 17 next week. And he was saying, I was negotiating short sales at the time, and I was furious with the bank. And he said, why don't you just become a bank? And I was like, that's impossible. He's like, I thought you said you could do anything you put your mind to. And I was like, so that kind of motivated me to actually figure out how to be the bank, how to create a bank, how to create a fund. And I, you know, make inquiries and reach out to SEC attorneys. And, you know, lo and behold, a few years later, in 2013, I was able to create a fund and raise capital and buy these assets from the bank and have great relationships with bank services brokers. So I would just say, really, reading is important. You know, I read every day. I think that is something. I listen to a lot of audios also and keep my mind in that framework, in that mind state, to be able to, you know, develop whatever goals and get it off the ground and what I'm trying to achieve. So that's very important. But as far as note books, I've written a book called Turning Distress into Success. There's a book called The Art of Investing. There's a lot of notebooks that are out there. If you actually go to Amazon and you put in my book, Turning Distress into Success, at the bottom, there'll be other books. I read a great book by Jim Napier, Invest in Debt. I don't know if you read that one. That was really an eye-opener for me, Invest in Debt by Jim Napier.
No, I've never read that before. I'm writing all the books down that you're giving me.
That's a really good one. That's a really good one. That was the first book that I read on debt. Understanding debt, how to invest in debt, because up until that time, I didn't understand how people buy credit card debt, right? Like, who would buy a credit card debt? That's crazy, right? That was my mindset then, because I just didn't know.
Right.
I started buying unsecured debt. So I buy unsecured. I buy if it was a second that was foreclosed and wiped out by the first, I'll buy that. And you might say, why would you buy that? You was foreclosed and wiped out, right? Because if that person didn't file bankruptcy, right, they still owe the note. So there's two instruments when you go to buy a house. When you borrow money from someone against a property, you sign a note and you sign a mortgage, right? Or a deed of trust, is, you know, a statement. The note is your promissory, your guarantee. You have to pay it, right? and the mortgage is the security against the property. So there's two separate instruments, right? The mortgage is recorded, the note is not. So what happens is, if you don't pay, they can foreclose on the mortgage, right? Or they can sue you on the note. So if I bought a second and the first foreclosed and wiped out the second, all they did was wipe out the mortgage that was attached to the property. But they wipe out the note. That person is still personally obligated to pay that note unless they file bankruptcy, right? Sometimes people can't file bankruptcy because of their job or, whatever situation they have. And then they may go through some hardship where they lose the property, but 5 years later, they're back on track. They have a 700 score. But guess what? They still note. So you can start a legal action to put a judgment against them, garnish their wages and stuff like that. So it's so powerful on the collection piece of it because it's two separate instruments. So back to the credit card debt, it's like, why would somebody buy credit card debt? I mean, someone can run up their credit card bill to $10,000, lose their job and don't pay. You buy that $10,000 worth of debt for $100. I mean, of course, you're buying thousands and thousands of debt to get it for that price, depending on the dollar, right? So you buy the debt for $100. You can negotiate with someone to give you $1,000, and you will release them from the $10,000 debt. Because remember, they still owe the face value of $10,000. You purchased it for $100. I mean, I've done this before. I've done this before where I'm like, wow, I paid $100 for this, $20,000 worth of debt, and I got the person to give me $5,000.
Right.
So is this investing in debt? Is this completely different, than investing into real property? But you have to have some experience. You have collection attorneys that will file lawsuits and stuff like that, and get judgments on people and garnish their wages and stuff like that. So completely different. But the debt business is definitely something everyone should look into. Yeah,
I think I'm gonna check out that book, Invest in Debt. I never would have even thought of that.
I've even purchased auto loans because it's emotional. If you went to the mall, you went shopping, but you was behind your car note and you in the mall splurging, shopping, you came outside and your car was gone, what you gonna do? You're gonna try to figure out where your car at and what you gotta do to get it back, right?
Right.
It's an emotional debt. So I purchased auto loans and repo cars and all that stuff. So
I hope you didn't purchase mine. That's how I started investing in real estate. But anyway, what is some advice that you'd like to give someone that you think could help them escalate quicker?
Oh, commitment, belief, and action. I mean, that's really the foundation, the pillars of success is commitment, belief, and action. Is really whatever you are looking to get into, whether it's wholesaling, whether it's fix and flip, stay committed to it. I know so many people who come out to the meetings and they really expect it to happen in 3 months. I've been going to meetings with people, nothing happened yet. I have people hit me on Instagram. Hey, how do I get started? And I'm like, listen, go to a meetup. You're going to try to find a realtor, a contractor, and a private lending person. And I can give you money up front, but the realtor, you can find out what's the heartbeat of the market, what's selling, what investors are looking for. Contractor, you're going to go to their site, look at the quality work they're doing, use them to give you estimates in your jobs. So when the realtor finds an opportunity, contractor give you an estimate, you have a private lender, you line them all up, you're good to go. Or they're not going to lend you money in one experience. Do a JV with the private lender, make them a partner, pay them interest and equity, a kicker, piece of the pie. They may do it with you, if they see that you're really about it. So that's the advice I give, and really commit to that. Stay on that course, keep going and going and going. As you're getting educated and building those relationships, something is definitely going to happen. It's like with me, I kind of shadowed what I was working, of course, and I shadowed someone else until I figured out the blueprint, and I made a deal, and I just say, you know what, I this is it, I'm out. So this is all or nothing. So it's going to work. The biggest thing for me was I don't want to go back to work. I like this freedom of waking up when I want and doing what I want to do and making my own calendar, and really all the energy and effort I'm putting in for myself, not anyone else. So that's been my motivation. I haven't really punched the clock since '99. and it
That's
feels
awesome.
great, but it's a lot of work. It's 25 ain't no breaks.
Right, I heard that in one of your videos.
Yeah. It is. You see me, I'm out here. You know,
Yeah,
working
you
for
are
the
making
future
it happen.
working for the future me, and that's what anyone who is listening to this should definitely take heed to that, and don't be afraid that. Of course, you have to have reserves. Of course, you have to build certain things up. But just take that leap of faith and commit, believe, and take that action.
Right. That's excellent advice. Because a lot of people, they like to talk, but they don't like to do. They don't commit to it. I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to stick my toe in. Like, you need to commit and get it done.
Yeah.
Anyway, I really appreciate you being on the podcast today. You gave us tremendous value. I'm pretty sure people are going to have to listen to this over and over to really understand some of the things, even though I know you put it on a simple level. But I know people are going to have to listen over and over so they can, you know, if they're interested in doing this and they want to get started, probably pick up the books you mentioned, the different events. You just gave so much value. So I really appreciate you being on the podcast today.
No doubt. It's an honor to be
here. And if
Thanks
it's anything I could ever do for you, just let me know. I'm all about value. So if I can add some value, let me know.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. But until next time, Do It Movement listeners, see ya.
All right, guys.
Thanks, guys, for checking out the Do It Movement podcast this week. I hope we inspired you to make some power moves now. If you haven't already, make sure you follow us for more info on our guests and new episodes at DoItMovementPod on Instagram and at DoItMovementPod.com. Make sure as you apply some of this knowledge, you tag us along the way by adding #DoItMovement so that we can recognize the change makers. See you next week.